Okay, so I've got a 2000 Newmar, and in the last 15 years some things get a little tired, and one of those things is the levelers for the springs for my HWH levelers. So here what we have is new springs, which are very strong, and underneath the motorhome, we'll see if the camera will shift, there is the leveler with the old tired springs. So last week I replaced two of the jacks, 4 springs total, and this week I'm going to show you an easy way to replace the springs. So I'll be back in a moment. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut several of these little wood strips. I happen to have a bundle of old wedges in my garage, but you could use paint sticks or whatever. These are a little over a 1/4 inch thick. I found that 12 of them per spring worked really good. So now that we've got ours cut, the next thing we're going to do is lower our jacks. Okay, now that the jack's in the down position, we're going to go ahead and stick some wedges in the spring. Now mine are just a little bit on the thick side. Paint sticks would probably work a little better, but we're just going to jam about 10 or so of these in these coils, so that when we release the spring, or release the jack I should say, we're going to be loose, and we can just lift the plate right off the bottom. Okay, now we've got about 12 wedges of wood in each spring on each side, so we're going to go ahead and lift the jack back up. Okay, once I went around and put the controller in the store position, and went right back up. So now you can see our springs are quite loose, so let's just lower our jack down, and we'll just reach in here, and look at there, that's very loose. So now we can just kind of crawl in there, get one of the springs off. Okay, now last week when I did the other 2 jacks, I hooked the come along up to my truck, and the spring to the motorhome like it is now. I did one at a time. I was thinking there's no reason that each jack has 2 springs, so let's go ahead and do both at one time. Now the obvious thing is just to go ahead and crank the come along. And then the only bad thing about that is when you're standing between that spring and you see what kind of energy that thing has, if that thing lets go, bad things are going to happen. So what we're going to try today is I'm going to go ahead and start up the truck. I'm going to pull forward just a little bit. And you can lay down a tape measure or something like that and figure out and go maybe, I'd say, 2 feet. And then those little wood blocks will be able to fall out, and we'll back up and take those wood blocks and then stretch the new springs out and do the same thing. So here we go. a little more. Yeah. Let's go ahead and zoom in right here. And now we can pull the springs out, or the wedges. And once all the wedges are out, we'll go ahead and back up. So, as you can see, these springs are deformed from just 16 years of being underneath that motorhome and twisted and pulled. These aren't as bad as the ones I removed last week, but the reason I'm changing these springs is because one, I had one that was coming up slow, but worse yet, camping last weekend, I had one of the springs break. So unfortunately, it probably fell off on the highway somewhere, and that could cause some problems. So I'll go ahead and replace all 8 springs. Okay, so now what we've done is we've taken the new springs out of the box and hooked them up to the motorhome on one end, and just like before, it's hooked to the other spring is hooked to the truck. So we can do one set of jacks, 2 springs at the same time. So I'm going to go ahead and start the truck and pull forward. If you have somebody help you with this, make sure that they stand back. If anything goes wrong, you don't want anybody getting hurt. So take your time. Go slowly. These springs are very powerful. We're going to go another foot. And just a little farther. Okay, that looks good. We can get the springs in, or the wedges in. Okay, now I've got 15 wedges, just because I had enough to do 15 on each spring. Now, if you notice the way that this hook is, I made sure that I put all the wedges so they come out the way this closed hook is. So the plan is that this is going to hook onto the foot. And when you noticed when we were putting the wedges in to take the old springs out, I really didn't care where the wedges are because we're going to be out here in the open, a lot of access to the spring, easy to pull it out. This is going to be a new situation. We're going to have to pull these wedges out when it's underneath the motorhome and the spring is in the correct position. So I want to make it as easy as possible. So I put them all down near one end of the spring with this loop facing the opposite end of the loop. So this will hook on the platform and I'll just be able to knock the wedges out this way. That end of the spring is going to be up near the top of the jack and going to be the harder to access area. So that's one spring, and then on the other end of the come along is the other spring, and it's done in the same way. As you can see, the hook right here. So let's go ahead. Now that all the wedges are in place, let's go ahead and back the truck up and get the springs out of this setup procedure. So there's our two springs ready to put back on the motorhome. You can see there's a little curl in it from having the wedges in, but that's not going to give us any grief. So what we're going to want to do is hook this end up first at the top on both springs, and then we will get the base and we'll hook this bottom one up second, if that works out. Actually, you know what? I think it worked the other way. I ended up hooking up one spring completely, and then hooked the bottom of this spring, and then hooked that up at the top second. So here we go. So I've got the springs hooked up. Sorry I couldn't show you a video of that, but wasn't enough room for the camera, me, and the springs all underneath the motorhome at the same time. I went ahead and I hooked the rear up first over here near the mud flap, and you can see that at the top I brought the hook in from the back side. It's just a lot easier when it's underneath. I noticed from the factory they bring the hook in from the front side, but it makes it a lot harder to remove and get on. So I'm sure they do them on the bench, so it doesn't make any difference. And then I hooked this bottom side on, and then to go ahead and hook this lower spring back on, and then reach up and again hook that top of the front side on with the from the back side. So now we've got a nice little gap here. So all we've got to do is lower our jacks and pull out the wedge. So I've got some help that's going to extend the jack. Go ahead, Nick, hit extend. Hold it. Stay on it until it stops. And I guide that. Okay, that's seating correctly. Keep going. Okay, now all that's left to do is take a screwdriver and remove our wedges. They'll still be a little bit tight, but